This video is sponsored by Delete Me. Two submarines glide silently beneath the steel-gray North Sea waters. Their massive diesel engines idle at minimum power, the gentle thrum barely detectable even from within their pressure hulls. These 211-foot vessels are masters of stealth, and each carries 11 torpedoes fed into 5 tubes, plus an 88mm deck gun mounted for surface encounters. Yet these lethal machines bear no identifying marks, no flags, no hull numbers, nothing to betray their origin. These German Type VIIA submarine crews operate under extraordinary orders. If spotted, raise the British flag. If forced to dock, don Italian uniforms. The mission's security measures are unprecedented. Even Germany's closest allies remain unaware of their presence. It's November 1936, and the Spanish Civil War rages ahead, offering a perfect testing ground for these machines. But a single miscalculation, one moment of detection, could spark an international crisis that the still rebuilding German military cannot afford. And indeed, this would become a secret so closely guarded that 60 years would pass before the truth finally surfaced. The German submarines mastered the art of deception, using every trick in the book to evade detection and carry out their covert missions. And while you may be far from the Spanish coast, you too are being watched, but by covert agents of a different kind. Online data brokers silently collect and sell your personal information, your name, address, phone number, and even details about your family. They go to great lengths to ensure you never find out, and even if you do, they make it nearly impossible for you to get your information back. Your data can be bought and traded across countless shady websites, making you an easy target for identity theft, phishing scams, and even more insidious threats. That's why we at Dark Seas trust Delete Me, a service dedicated to tracking down and removing your personal data from hundreds of data broker websites. Within days of signing up, our Delete Me dashboard revealed just how much of our private information was already circulating without our consent. Their privacy experts work continuously to monitor and remove these records, ensuring they stay gone. But here's the real danger. Your data isn't just about you. Data brokers often link your profile to information about your relatives, workplace, and even past addresses. That's why Delete Me offers family plans, so your loved ones aren't left vulnerable to the same risks. Don't let your personal information drift unchecked across the internet. Take action now. Head to the link in the description and use promo code DARKSEAS for 20% off your Delete Me subscription. The longer you wait, the more of your data gets exposed. Origins. By October 1936, the Third Reich's military leadership found itself caught in a strategic dilemma. Admiral Wilhelm Canaris, head of the Abwehr, German military intelligence, had been pushing hard for direct naval intervention in the Spanish Civil War, which had broken out 3 months before between pro-government Republicans, increasingly backed by the USSR, and nationalist insurgents who looked to Europe's fascist movements for support. The proposal of a communist Spain potentially hosting Soviet naval bases in the Mediterranean posed an unacceptable threat to German interests. Moreover, as both a spy master and former U-boat commander from the Great War, Canaris understood the strategic value of submarine warfare and recognized that the conflict offered a perfect opportunity to test Germany's newly rebuilt U-boat force in active combat conditions. However, Hitler's top brass was hesitant. Germany was still in the delicate early stages of building back up its armed forces, carefully navigating around the restrictions of the Treaty of Versailles, which had placed strict limitations on German military power since 1919. Any overt military intervention risked drawing unwanted international scrutiny to their rearmament program. The situation shifted dramatically during a pivotal meeting in Berlin on October 24th. Italian Foreign Minister Count Ciano met with Hitler to strengthen the partnership that would eventually become known as the Rome-Berlin Axis. During this meeting, Ciano informed Hitler that Italy would be sending submarines to support General Franco's nationalist forces in the Spanish Civil War. This development forced Germany's hand. If Italy acted alone in supporting Franco at sea, it would give Mussolini outsized influence in Spain, an outcome that could limit German strategic options in the Mediterranean. Yet Germany's approach would need to be fundamentally different from Italy's. While Mussolini seemed unconcerned about the international opinion of him openly breaking neutrality agreements, Germany's position was far more precarious. The Reich was still testing the waters of how far other countries would tolerate its military resurgence. A public breach of neutrality could provoke British and French reactions that would complicate German rearmament plans. Therefore, while Germany had decided that it would participate in attacking Spanish Republican ships, it knew it would have to do so with an unprecedented level of secrecy. Submarine crew members would be sworn to absolute silence and threatened that any breach would be paid for with their lives. If spotted roaming the Mediterranean, they would fly the British white ensign. If forced to make port, they would raise Italian flags and don Italian uniforms. Whatever happened, it was of vital importance that there was no way for any engagements to be traced back to Germany. Operation Ursula is born. The plan for German submarines to intervene in the Spanish Civil War was christened Operation Ursula, named after the daughter of Karl Dönitz, then head of the Kriegsmarine's U-boat arm. The position of Operation Commander was given to Vice Admiral Hermann Bohm, who would have sole responsibility for coordinating between Berlin and the submarines. From the available U-boat fleet, 2 submarines were selected, U-33 and U-34. These Type 7A U-boats were sister ships, built side by side at the Germaniawerft shipyard in Kiel, starting in 1935 and commissioned in July and September 1936 respectively, placing them among the first submarines constructed after Germany began openly rearming. At 211 feet in length, they were compact but lethal vessels. Each carried 5 torpedo tubes with 11 torpedoes, plus an 88mm deck gun for surface encounters. Twin diesel engines drove them across the surface, while electric motors provided silent underwater propulsion with sufficient range to reach the Mediterranean and operate there for extended periods. While their original commanders, Otto Heinrich Juncker and Ernst Sobe, had proven capable in training, the High Command decided that for such a sensitive mission, more experienced hands were required. Therefore, U-33 was entrusted to Captain Lieutenant Kurt Freiwald, a veteran submarine officer who had been among the first to join the reformed U-boat service, while the helm of U-34 was taken by Captain Lieutenant Harald Grosse, an even more experienced commander who had previously tested submarine designs in Spanish waters during the late 1920s. As the 2 U-boats prepared for their clandestine mission in Wilhelmshaven, their crews stripped all identifying marks from the vessels. Every piece of paperwork that could potentially reveal their true origin was removed. To maintain the facade of German non-intervention, the mission was officially designated Training Exercise Ursula. Ursula begins. On the night of November 20th, U-33 and 34 slipped quietly out of Wilhelmshaven harbor and made their way toward the Bay of Biscay, maintaining strict radio silence. Their departure was timed precisely. In order to minimize their chances of detection, they needed to ensure they would have the darkness of a new moon when the moment came to cross the narrow Strait of Gibraltar, where British warships maintained a constant presence. The plan worked perfectly. They arrived at the strait on the moonless night of November 27th and were able to sneak through to the Mediterranean without being spotted. Even a nearby Spanish Republican destroyer failed to detect them. It was an encouraging start to their mission. Once in the Mediterranean, the U-boats would have to wait. Italian submarines were still operating in their designated patrol zones, and orders strictly forbade any possibility of submarine versus submarine encounters during the handover. Until November 30th, U-34 was assigned to discreetly monitor the waters around Malaga, while U-33 waited further east. With the Italians' withdrawal on November 29th, the operation could begin in earnest. U-33 moved into position behind Cape Nao and Cape Palos, while U-34 would take the area west of Cape Palos, including the crucial Spanish Republican naval base at Cartagena. Their orders emphasized stealth above all else. They were to remain submerged during daylight hours, surfacing only at night to recharge batteries and send coded reports to Admiral Bohm. Into action. The Kriegsmarine was now ready to test out its latest U-boat technology in a real-life combat zone. However, finding prey would prove more challenging than expected. The clear, shallow Mediterranean waters offered little concealment, and the submarine's orders, demanding absolute confirmation of targets, severely limited their opportunities to attack. Nevertheless, on the evening of December 1st, an opportunity for action arose when U-34 spotted a Republican destroyer patrolling outside Cartagena harbor. Commander Grosse carefully maneuvered his submarine into position. Getting into the perfect spot, he gave the order to unleash a torpedo but could only look on in frustration as it missed its target, streaking past the destroyer before exploding against rocks on the shoreline. Strangely, despite the sizable blast, no one seemed to investigate the cause. Luckily for the Germans, the mission's secrecy remained intact. On December 5th, U-34 launched another attack, this time on the destroyer Almirante Antequera. Again, the torpedo missed. 3 days later, yet another attempted strike on a destroyer ended in failure. This string of misses raised concerns about German torpedoes. If the Third Reich's leadership had hoped Operation Ursula would demonstrate the superiority of their submarines, it didn't seem to be going too well. Meanwhile, U-33 was facing challenges of its own. Commander Freiwald found his patrol zone had less traffic, offering fewer opportunities for attack. When targets did appear, the strict rules of engagement often prevented action. Despite getting tantalizingly close to the Spanish Republican cruiser Mendez Nunez and its destroyer screen, Freiwald had to let this enticing target slip away, as darkness made definite positive identification impossible. Termination. Berlin was growing increasingly impatient with the operation's failure to yield results. To make matters worse, the Third Reich's naval attaché in Spain, Korvettenkapitan Meyer Donner, committed a serious breach of security, mistakenly revealing to the commander of Franco's Spanish nationalist fleet, Captain Moreno, that German U-boats were operating in the area. Even though they were on the same side, their presence was supposed to be kept secret, even from the nationalists. The only other nation allowed to know of Operation Ursula's existence was Italy, and that was solely for the purpose of coordinating submarine patrols. Meyer Donner's indiscretion threatened to unravel the carefully constructed illusion of German non-intervention. By December 10th, Berlin had seen enough, and Vice Minister von Blomberg ordered the termination of the mission. The submarines were to withdraw the next day, leaving the patrol zones to the Italians. Fatal encounter. As U-33 and U-34 began their journey home, fate had one more card to play. At exactly 2 p.m. on December 12th, U-34 was running submerged off Malaga when Commander Grossa raised his periscope for a routine scan. What he saw made him freeze, the clear silhouette of a submarine sailing on the surface just 4 miles southwest of the lighthouse. Despite the mission being officially terminated, the opportunity was too tempting to pass up. Through his periscope, Grossa could see it was a Spanish Republican C-class submarine running at 11 knots. His position wasn't ideal, and an explosion this close to shore would surely be noticed, but after a string of frustrating misses, the crew of U-34 was eager for action. At 2:19 p.m., Grossa gave the order to fire, and a single torpedo went shooting toward the target. The submarine's commander, Antonio Arbona, was chatting with watch officer Agustin Garcia in the conning tower. On deck, 2 sailors were dumping garbage over the side. None of them noticed the approaching danger until they felt the enormous impact of the torpedo striking C-3's hull on the starboard side. As the vessel rocked violently, it burst into flames, and a column of white smoke extended skyward. The submarine's bow tilted dramatically, and within moments, she slipped beneath the waves, taking 37 of her 40-man crew to their doom. Only Garcia and the 2 sailors on deck survived. U-34 remained submerged, listening through her hydrophones to the sounds of C-3's demise. That night, Grossa transmitted a brief message to Berlin confirming the sinking of a C-class submarine as he and his crew continued their journey home. Aftermath and investigation. Both U-boats returned safely to Wilhelmshaven on December 21st. Their crews were sworn to permanent silence, and the operation files were sealed. Commander Grossa was awarded the Spanish Golden Cross, the only member of the Kriegsmarine to receive this honor, though the presentation had to wait to maintain secrecy. Meanwhile, back in Spain, confusion reigned. Though the Republicans' first press release blamed, quote, a submarine, evidently foreign, the official investigation would reach a markedly different conclusion. On December 22nd, Submarine Arm Chief Captain Remigio Verdia submitted his report to the fleet commander. His findings systematically rejected the possibility of a torpedo or mine attack, based on 5 key observations. No witnesses reported seeing the characteristic 60 to 80 meter water column typical of such explosives. The blast, while notable, was smaller than would be expected from either weapon. Watch Officer Garcia claimed a lookout had seen no torpedo trail, though survivors' later accounts contradicted his story about a fifth man being on watch. Neither the fishermen nor other vessels in the area reported seeing a periscope. Finally, no fragments had fallen on the surviving crew members. After ruling out both torpedo and mine attacks, VIIA considered other possibilities. A battery explosion seemed unlikely, as the batteries weren't fully charged, and previous such incidents hadn't broken submarines' hulls. He ultimately concluded that either a torpedo's compressed air cylinder had exploded, or a criminal hand had planted a low-power explosive device. Examining all the evidence decades later, some naval historians have proposed a more likely explanation. U-34's torpedo had indeed struck C-3, but without detonating. Instead, the impact likely triggered an explosion in the submarine's batteries, explaining both the white smoke witnesses reported and the rapid sinking, a theory that seems to reconcile the physical evidence with the accounts of survivors. The truth about Operation Ursula would remain hidden for years, until French naval officer Claude Huon discovered documents while examining Kriegsmarine archives. Finally, in 1998, the wreck of C-3 was positively identified off Malaga. She lies in two pieces at a depth of 220 feet, a silent testament to Germany's secret intervention in the Spanish Civil War. Legacy. Operation Ursula marked a significant turning point in submarine warfare. Though largely unsuccessful in its stated aims, with only one victory achieved, and after the mission had technically been cancelled, it provided critical insights for Germany's fledgling U-boat force. The operation exposed several crucial issues that would influence future German naval development. The new Type VIIA submarines proved seaworthy and reliable, validating the basic design that would become the backbone of the Kriegsmarine submarine fleet. However, the problematic torpedo performance in the Mediterranean served as an early warning of issues that needed to be addressed, though these would not be fully resolved by the time Germany entered World War II. The mission also influenced German strategic thinking. The challenges of operating in the clear Mediterranean waters and the coordination required with Italian forces helped shape the future division of naval responsibilities between the Axis powers. When war came, the Germans would focus their U-boat operations in the Atlantic, leaving the Mediterranean largely to their Italian allies. Beyond its tactical lessons, Operation Ursula represented something more ominous. The first time since the Great War that a German submarine had successfully sunk an enemy vessel. It would not be the last. 3 years later, U-34 and her sister boats would find themselves engaged in a much larger conflict, as Hitler's U-boat fleet launched its notorious campaign against Allied shipping in the Atlantic. Secrecy was once a tool of warfare. Now it's a necessity in the digital age. A special thanks to DeleteMe for supporting this video. If you want to take control of your online privacy, check out DeleteMe at the link in the description and use promo code DARKSEAS for 20% off.